I'm so happy to be the father of this woman's child.
And I love you.
I love you too, sweetheart.
And I love you, baby.
What the hell happened to you, Thomas? You used to have it all.
Whoa, the door's wide open. Hello? I'm leaving! Damn it! Hey! Hey, up here! What is going on now? What? Yeah.
Am I ever gonna see you again?
No.
Hey, I've got a question for you all, or y'all, which is a nice, effective shorthand for you all. You got a website, or you looking to get a website on the interwebs, get it hosted somewhere? Well, I've got the place for you. HostGator is a leading provider of shared, resold VPS and dedicated hosting solutions. If you don't know exactly what that means, don't worry, because their award-winning support is available all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, via phone, email, and live chat. Don't even have to call. Just boop, 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 type the message. That's me typing. Boop, boop, boop. You can be one of over 9 million websites. This is not small potatoes, folks. 9 million websites trust HostGator. And if you sign up for a new hosting package using the coupon code GameItAll, it all ties together. You can receive 25% off your first hosting plan. 25%! That's a quarter of the price. Hacked off. Like Jason Voorhees. What are you waiting for? Sign up. Do it now. Do it. Welcome everybody to another edition of Film Talk. Welcome my guest here at this time. We got actor slash writer slash director slash many other jobs. Fellow Canadian John Fallon.
Hey, how you doing, Brendan?
Thank you very much for joining us. And right off the bat, I just want to say, I can't believe I didn't notice this right away, but when I was watching your newest film, which you're here to talk about, I saw the Joe Blow Productions logo, and
Yep.
I've been going to Joe Blow for years and years and years, and I didn't even put it together, even though I knew Arrow in the Head, I knew that was John Fallon, I didn't even put it together, that was all one and the same.
Yeah, all one and the same. I mean, Joe Blow, Burge Garabedian came in as executive producer on the film for post-production. So, and also gave me, am I allowed to swear on this? Or?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Also gave me a fuckload of moral support, that's for sure.
Awesome. So, is this like a first Joe Blow production, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's the first Joe Blow movie production in tandem with my production company, Bruce Productions, and Hallbrook Multimedia were the production providers. So we put them on there because they worked their asses off.
Awesome. Now, before we get started on the film itself, which is The Shelter, which before, I guess I'll just say right now, is it available on VOD at this time?
Yeah, right now Americans can see it on Amazon, They could see it on iTunes, and Canadians could see it on iTunes as well, and on YouTube actually also for rent there.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you started out, as far as films are concerned, you started out getting a lot of bit parts in movies, like Rollerball, Saw 2,
Yeah.
Alone in the Dark, stuff like that. So was the acting the way you wanted to start out, or was the directing and the writing, did that just kind of come later, or is that all kind of together
Well,
at once?
No, I went to film school first for 2 years, and then I went to acting school for 3 years, and then I came out of that, and I basically started doing the audition rounds, and I started acting in French productions because I speak very good French, and I was also script doctoring at the time, and the website was never Arrow in the Head was never a passion, not a passion, but a goal of mine. That kind of like came out of left field. And from my friend Burge Garabedian and Joe Blow, who asked me out of the blue, hey, do you want to start, you know about all that horror stuff, you want to start a horror website? And that was like in the year 2000, so that's before the way things are right now. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it for fun, I'll keep my writing fresh, just call it Arrow in the Head, and don't censor me, and we're in business. So I started a website, and within 3 months, it kind of blew up, and then I had a new career path, which, at the same time I tried to keep the acting going, and those roles that you mentioned, for example, Alone in the Dark and Saw 2, were not roles I got because of my acting talent. They were roles that I got because I was the Arrow, and they saw it as a great cross-promotion tool. But, so the site got in there and kind of deviated me a little bit, but I was still trying, to get my main goals done throughout.
And the site's grown an insane amount since you started, because I believe at the beginning, as far as I know, it was almost 100% just you.
Oh, yeah. No, for the first 5 years, excuse me, for the first 5 years, it was me by myself. And then I couldn't do it anymore, so I started hiring a small staff. And then it got bigger, then a bigger staff, and then it got really big, then a much bigger staff, and then I figured out how to manage, and downsized a bit to the staff pretty much that we have now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's grown incredibly. So you would say then that the acting came first before the writing and the directing?
I would say the acting and the writing came pretty much at the same time, but directing was always my holy grail. That was always my ultimate goal. And I directed shorts and I did a music video, but in terms of a feature, every time it looked like I was about to direct a feature, it would fall through and somebody else would direct it. So, I'm happy it went down the way it went down, because I learned a lot from being on sets. So by the time I got to the shelter, I was ready for it. So I don't think I would have been ready, if I would have directed earlier.
And I seem to remember, I don't remember, I think you might have talked about it on your website in the past too, but was there sort of like a growing frustration with the with the kind of the business side of it? That kind of led to you maybe wanting to step behind the camera?
No, that didn't come from that. I mean, there's always a frustration with the film industry. It makes the mob look honest. That's what I always say. I've grown now. Now at this point in my life, I understand it. I know how it is. I get that. A company will say, "Hey, yeah, we want to make your movie. Send us the script," and then they ignore you for 9 months and never return an email. And then you send an email and say, "Come on, dude. If you don't want to do it, just tell me." But they can't tell you. I call it the Hollywood no. They ignore you. In case that down the road something changes or you become bigger in stature, and then they circle back, "Hey, John, what's going on, buddy? That movie we're talking about." So, I'm used to it. I don't even know how I got here now, but no, I'm used to the film. Directing didn't come from my frustration in terms of the film industry. It came because it was a goal I always had, and it needed to be accomplished.
Okay, and so this is your feature-length directorial debut, The Shelter. So tell us a little bit about the plot and kind of how that came together.
Well, actually, the trigger that kind of planted the seed for the shelter. I was coming back from a hockey game, of course, because I'm Canadian, and that's all I do is watch hockey. And it was winter, and there was a homeless man sitting in the streets begging for change. So I gave him some change, and I was walking back home. And on my walk home, I thought, who is that guy? How did he get there? And where is he going after this? And I got home, and I wrote those 3 questions down. And then, in terms of shelter anyways, I just thought about it a lot. I thought about it and thought about it. Like every day I would think about it, and just it started to form that way. And the film itself is about a homeless man called Thomas Jacob, played by Michael Pare of Streets of Fire and Eddie the Cruiser's fame, who comes back to his hometown after a 5-year absence, revisits his old stomping grounds, and at a certain point he comes upon a house with the door open, light shining out. He thinks he caught a lucky break. He goes inside, makes himself at home, and eventually finds out that the house won't let him leave.
Right, and like you said, Michael Pare, who's been in like tons and tons and tons of movies over the years. So was he? How was the process of actually landing him for your movie? Because that's pretty big. That's a pretty big lead role.
Yeah, I met Mike through our mutual friend Eric Red, who's a director, great director in his own rights, and we got to really know each other on the set of 100 Feet, which Mike played the ghost and I played a cop in the film, and we just got along. And I found him to be a very charismatic man, and he has a lot of presence. So when I started writing Shelter, every time I write a script, I always find somebody, either a movie star or a person I know, to kind of model them in my head as to how they look like. So he looked like Michael Pare when I wrote it. And when it came down to casting, my producer, Donnie Broussard, I was talking with him, and I said, okay, well, let's find a guy like Michael Pare, a guy that looks like Michael Pare, that has the same vibe, the same presence. And he's like, well, dude, you know Michael Pare. Why don't you just send him the script and see what happens? And I was like, well, the guy's busy, it's a low budget. He's like, just send him the script. So I sent him the script, and Mike really, really reacted to it. And if memory serves me right, he then came down to Montreal, where I live, and we had a meeting there, and then I flew to LA, and we negotiated, came to an agreement, and that was it. Michael Pare was in the shelter.
Yeah, he kind of, I don't know if this is just me, but he kind of gives off like a Rutger Hauer kind of Mickey Rourke type vibe in that movie.
Well, I definitely get the Mickey Rourke thing, especially...
Maybe it's just because Hobo with a Shotgun is ingrained in my head.
Oh, maybe. I mean, and also, poor Mike, when I think Mickey Rourke, I don't know if Mickey Rourke still smokes today, but when I think Mickey Rourke, he always had a cigarette dangling from his mouth, and in the shelter, the character smoked. So he smoked a couple times when he could pull it off. And Mike Pare doesn't smoke. And we can find herbal cigarettes in Louisiana where we shot the film. So he took one for the team, and he smoked for real. So, he went all out for me.
And now, watching the movie, and it's a very cool atmospheric horror movie, by the way. I just want to say right off the bat.
Thank you.
And even from the opening credits, you a very distinctive style. Like even the credits, they have that see-through effect where you see the action going on in the background. I'm just wondering. It looks like so much work was put into the final product. How long did you have from once the script was finalized to once the movie was completed?
That's a hard question. We shot in 2014 January. And I think the film was finished in November of 2000, actually before, maybe August of 2015, but we had some serious post-production problems, not due to technical malfunction or not due to incompetence, but just due to just weird stuff that kept happening and that delayed the process.
Okay, just like stuff you didn't even notice as you were shooting, kind of thing.
Oh no, not at all. Post-production, meaning for example, we exported. We did the color correction, we exported the film, and then a series of files were corrupted from the export for some reason. So my editor, Bobby Albrook, brought in an expert to fix the files, and we realized that every file that was corrupted was one with a crucifix in it.
Okay.
So every shot in the film that had a crucifix in it was corrupted. So that kind of gave us the EBGBs, and that was just the beginning of the fun. I call it weird energy. It's the beginning of the fun, weird energy that was around this movie.
And it's also cool to see because you get a lot of, especially nowadays, I find you get a lot of like really, really like 2.5 hour big Hollywood epics. It seems like almost every week. So it's kind of interesting to see someone take 76 minutes and make it a nice tight amount of screen time. So was that sort of the plan from the beginning? You wanted to make it like a fairly like tight, short, right to the point film, or did a lot of it end up on the cutting room floor?
No. The script itself, if I remember correctly, was about 70 pages long, but I figured that I'd be able to beef it up with, getting a lot of coverage and, making the action extensive, or whatever action there is in the film. But then when you go and shoot on a low budget, you can't make mistakes, because if you make mistakes, you don't have time to correct them. So what happened with The Shelter is that I had a lot of my first act, and I didn't have as much coverage as I would have liked for my final 15 minutes. And when we cut the movie together, the first block of the film, which I still to this day feel is a bit too long, it feels too long, it was much longer, with a lot of him walking, and more of him walking, and him outside the church, as before a flashback and stuff like that. So I shaved off as much as I could to serve the story, while at the same time retaining a running time that was acceptable to be accepted by distributors as a feature.
Okay. And so another big thing is, like you said, he gets stuck in this house. So the majority of the film, or a good portion of the film anyway, takes place in this one location. So yeah. I know that could be a challenge to an actor, especially because a lot of times, a lot of scenes, it's just him in the scene. But what kind of challenges does it present to you as a director, where you're trying to like keep everything kind of rolling, keep everything interesting, where you're trying to deal with like this one location for extended periods of time?
Like in terms of like directing the crew and directing the actors?
Yeah, like I'm just thinking of like I can't think of examples right off the top of my head, but there's a lot of movies where they'll take place in one location, and it's very some movies do it very well, and some movies it's just very difficult to retain your attention. I'm just wondering if there are any challenges there where you were thinking like, okay, how do I keep this kind of like this one location interesting for this long period of time?
Not really. I mean, we were very prepared beforehand. So, I saw the house, and my DP and I sat down, and, I had my shot list. He had his shot ideas, and I mean, you've seen the film. It's fairly, I find anyways, you tell me, visually dynamic, so I've tried to use what I had. I mean, the house wasn't as big as it could have been. So, I did things like, peering, taking the camera and peering from behind a wall that's upstairs to give a top shot of him, at the bottom, and just use the environment to try to make it as visually interesting as possible.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was gonna. One thing I wanted to say is that I think you do succeed in making it very interesting and like dynamic to look at.
Thank you.
Various uses of like filters, and especially with the flashbacks. Well, I don't want to get into it too much. I don't want to ruin anything, but
it's all right.
Yeah.
We had a great lighting, a great gaffer, and that bluish light coming in, and the house is a character in itself, and I wanted to communicate that, and I think that we did.
And so you mentioned the time it took from script to final product, because you said you noted some post-production issues delayed you a bit. Now the actual filming, how much time did you get to film the movie?
14 days.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 14 days. It was actually 14 hardcore, non-stop
14
days.
Like 12-hour days. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it was great because the crew I worked with was a crew that works together all the time. So they do a lot of commercials and TV shows and stuff like that. So when I got there, and my DP was hooked up with that crew, they were a well-oiled machine. So there wasn't any miscommunication or any mucking around. Everybody was there to hustle, and they gave me 200%. And I don't think, and it was a small crew at that, and I don't think we could have pulled it off with a lesser crew. Well, obviously we could not have pulled it off with a lesser crew.
Okay, so back to the website for a second. Now, you also obviously been running Arrow in the Head for 8 years now, 10 years.
It's actually, well, right now I've given the reign of running Arrow in the Head to Eric Olkuski. He's actually been running it for me since all year, actually, definitely all year. I'm still there. I call it the Wizard of Oz syndrome. I'm still behind the curtain and looking at things, but I'm not as hands-on on the website as I used to be.
So, so obviously you've watched not only just for reviews, but you've obviously watched thousands and thousands and thousands of horror movies. So I wanted to know, are there any that kind of, maybe even subconsciously when you look back at your movie, are there any you kind of modeled any of your film work after?
Well, for The Shelter, I was definitely inspired by Kubrick, just in terms of how he placed the furniture, how everything was very symmetrical. I was also inspired by Polanski, so I definitely watched Repulsion, which is about a chick in a house, before I watched The Shelter. And a bit of David Lynch as well, and maybe a pinch of Malik. I love Terrence Malick, so I tried to put a little bit of that in there. I mean, if I could have, I would have shot Leaves for like half an hour, but I didn't have the time.
Just 106 minutes, 30 minutes of Leaves.
Exactly, with a raindrop falling and stuff like that. I do have that. I had that with the ice, actually. I don't know if you remember. I have a shot of like an ice cube, 3 ice cubes melting. Bloop, bloop, bloop. So yeah, that was my little, exactly.
Okay, so I guess one more question regarding the site then, because you've obviously, your reviews in the past have been very vocal, one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, going into Hollywood and doing that at the same time, have you ever had an awkward confrontation with anyone?
Well, I'm not going to name names, but I know there are some people that got offended and that were pissed off at me for disliking what they did. And and even for me, with the website, it was a learning curve, man. I mean, when I started off, I didn't think anybody was reading this. I was just talking shit, saying whatever I want. I didn't care. And as you grow through that, you start to realize, okay, maybe insulting people is not the way to go. Maybe I didn't have any filter at first, and then as I moved forward within the site, I started to build one because I started to understand how things work, and and that I was doing it wrong. So for anybody that I was mean to, in the I mean, this was early on, like, first 5 years of the site when I was fairly edgy. Well, I do apologize. I was a punk kid, and, that's what punk kids do. But, I know some people got pissed off and stuff like that. And whatever, that's fine. That's life. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's similar to, like, you hear stories from the guys from Mystery Science Theater running into people, you know what I mean? And stuff, so it's bound to happen. Okay, well, anyway, so The Shelter is out, like you said, on Amazon and iTunes in the States, and you can also rent it on iTunes in Canada.
Yes, sir.
And it will be playing in any theaters in Canada?
It's already screened, actually. It's screened in Toronto and in Los Angeles and a couple of other Canadian cities last week. So it just screened for a week. It's a small movie, so
okay.
So now for now the next step is the DVD is coming out on January 3rd, and has some cool extras and actually one thing I've been getting a lot, people have seen it is, okay, what's the ending mean? What's the ending mean? Or what does the film mean? Because, it's somewhat of a film left up to interpretation. And on the DVD and in the commentary, I kind of, give little clues and connect a couple dots just to kind of guide people in terms of what it meant to me. But, so far, a lot of people have come up to me, I think this happens, and I'm like, shit, that's a better idea than what I came up with. So, yeah, why not? That's what happened, dude. So,
it's that crazy Kevin Smith Prince thing, right? About Dogma, where he explained what Dogma was, and Kevin Smith said, "Yeah, sure, okay."
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing, I mean, I actually kind of took a page from David Lynch when Lost Highway came out. I don't know if you've seen that film or not.
I think so.
But I became obsessed with it because I had no idea what it meant. And then after seeing it 9 times, I figured out what it meant. And for me, anyways. And I read an interview with Lynch, and he said, they asked him, what does Lost Highway mean? And he said, I know what it means to me, but what's important is what it means to you. So I've been kind of like ripping off that line and answering the same way with The Shelter. I know what it means to me, but I think who you are as a person, how you were raised spiritually, will define what you get out of it. And so far, it's been really interesting to see how people, some people love it, some people hate the shit out of it, some people think it's about this, some people think it's about that, and that's cool.
So obviously, you're of the school of thought where it's more important to kind of let the audience make up their mind rather than just like spoon feed. This is what it means.
For this particular film, yes. I mean, the essence is clear. I mean, the Thomas character is a guy that did a lot of bad things, and obviously he needs to let go of that burden and forgive himself or seek redemption. That's clear, but the how and the who and the why is not as clear. So yeah, for The Shelter, it was the type of film I wanted to make.
And it can be very difficult too, making a movie with. I mean, there are other great actors in the film, but a lot of times it's just Michael, and it can be difficult because you don't have any kind of like exposition to work with, right? In those scenes, so it's an accomplishment to be able to pull that off without having a lot of scenes of people just kind of explaining things.
Well, I tried to do that visually, with the flashbacks, So the flashbacks, I think one flashback has 1 or 2 lines of dialogue in it, but actually that's not true. I have 2 flashbacks with dialogue, but a lot of my flashbacks are just visual cues, relaying information about this guy, but in a visual way. As somebody once said, that cinema is a visual medium. So, we don't want to hear people talking for forever. You use imagery to communicate what you want to say, and that's one thing I wanted to do with The Shelter. And, having one guy alone in a house for the most part was definitely, the way to go about it.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to do the little wrap up here, and then I'm just going to keep you on the line just for a second. Just want to get some info from you before I let you go.
Cool. Okay. Very cool.
All right. Well, hey, I want to thank you very much for joining me here. Like I said, The Shelter is available on iTunes in Canada. If you're in Canada, Amazon and iTunes in the States. So give that a rent. I'll put a link down below as soon as this video is posted. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
And good luck with the film.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to do the little wrap up here, and then I'm just going to keep you on the line just for a second. Just want to get some info from you before I let you go.
Cool. Okay. Very cool.
All right. Well, hey, I want to thank you very much for joining me here. Like I said, The Shelter is available on iTunes in Canada. If you're in Canada, Amazon and iTunes in the States. So give that a rent. I'll put a link down below as soon as this video is posted. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.